Good evening. Hello. Right, number one, apologies for any background noise. And number two, good evening and good morning. And number three, this is the Blender Discord Render Roast, which is held by various members of the Discord community in that particular Discord. Links in the description if you if you are new to this. This entire roast is produced on people's work that they submit to the Discord, and there's a bunch of roasters that take it in turns to analyze the renders and see what they could do better, or just speak interesting points about them. There's not much more to say than that, and we're going to go through a couple of them. But first, this render, this video actually, Discord username is DJ Irulu. Probably that's how you say it. Just reading the chat. Yep, that's alright. Okay, so let's get going. Just watch it through start to end. Is that just repeated? I think so. Alright, well, this is possibly a stereoscopic video, and to test that I have got some stereoscopic glasses here, and I am now viewing through them. It's kind of working. I like the pulsating brightness. So, right, that animation, it gets all the way to the end, but then let's take a screenshot. So it gets all the way to the end first, and then comes back. So it goes right to the end, then comes back. I think this is probably manually keyframed. So you may find it interesting to look up the bounce interpolation, because that handles this sort of thing automatically. So if you want it to slide down and then bounce as it goes down, then it will handle that curve, so it'll go like, and then gradually reduce its length over time, which will be accurate to real-world gravity because it calculates it all for you. I think it's possible you could try because it starts out very quick and then goes to the end and then comes back. I think you could have just taken that come back out, because these ones seem to go up and then stay up, as well as the words in the middle. I enjoy the animation. Does it flash? Just going backwards in frames. Yeah, it flashes then. Is that on purpose? Think so? Maybe. Either way, the 3D effect is fairly strong. I think it works quite well. Although I think there are a few problems, like the noise issue with down here. Seems to be some like fluorescent tubing that's affecting the metal. It's sort of generating quite a bit of noise. Other than that, the wire mesh looks good. The scaffolding. This looks lovely down here. Can you see my mouse on the screen, I wonder? Yes, you can. Cool. So yeah, that bit down the bottom here looks very nice. I can see rivets and joints. Quite accurate. Is there even a ladder here? It's pretty good, especially for something you're probably not going to see from the behind of. I will say that it breaks down a bit when you get to the top because it is just one solid square. I would say... the key bindings for YouTube for skipping forward and back frames is the comma and full stop key, or the like triangle brackets. If you don't like, yeah, the triangle bracket keys, the buttons next to the right of M and before forward slash, and that lets you go forward and back in frames, which is really handy for if you look at animation. But yeah, I like the change in brightness. It actually adds a lot of variation to it, which sort of makes it pulsate and look a bit more fluorescent. Yeah, looks good. I like the backlighting, because it sort of helps the fluorescent front bit stand out a bit. There's not much more to say. I would say, like, because of, the main focus of this is to be a intro or some sort of title card, and I think it achieves that fairly well. I don't think there should be a lot of, like, you could try and make the sides and the bottom a more metallic material by throwing in some textures or smudges or rust or some tiny little details like that if you want, but I think it's just gonna be possibly a bit messy. I mean, it's probably worth looking at how to get rid of this noise or change the harshness of that light on that rusted or that like metal in the background. But other than that, it's pretty good. I think these colours are pretty decent, if you're going for stereoscopy, that is. But yes, that's pretty nice. I will try and do these in order as best I can, but we've got quite a mix of videos, images, and people. But yeah, this video is by Stoinercraft, I believe. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Right. Next render, I believe, is... Yes, it's in here. Cool. So, Bawdy Bronze. Nice change of name. So, I believe this is a German-style grenade, being very killed by that JPEG compression. But I think it's a pretty good job. I can see a seam in the texturing going right down here, so it might be mirrored. I can't really tell, but I don't know if this has any bevel. If it doesn't, then it could benefit from some, or just a little bit, or even just because I believe you're rendering in essence cycles, it looks like. Then you could just use the bevel shader. I think it's HDRI lit, so that background is probably where it's coming from. I think possibly the biggest issue is the wood texture with the unwrapping. I'm not entirely sure how the wood would affect on this, because I don't know if you'd put it into two slices and then glue it together in the middle, or if you'd actually get like you'd make a thing in the first and then drill a hole down it. I'm not entirely sure. You'd probably know more about that if you've looked at references than I do. But the cap on the bottom and the cap on the top look pretty good. I would say they're all very solid one colour, so it's possibly a showroom grenade or a extremely clean example of what this grenade might have looked like, but if it were to be worn or weathered by actual use, then it might have some smudges or grease on it. I don't know about glue, possibly. It depends. So even if this was two segments glued together, or if it was just drilled out of one solid piece of wood, then actually, yeah, you might get no, because you'd get slices going down like this the whole way, and then it would be straight here and straight in the front, but not on the sides. And then you'd have more stretching laminates on the side. Oh yeah, this entire roast is recorded over, so you can watch this back whenever. Yes, you did just miss yours. The mainly comments were just have a look at the mail, but that's about it. In terms of the texture on the top, looks good. I don't know what it says, but it is pretty nice. I can't really tell with the compression, but have a look at the bevel. Material actually looks decent. I would say the only probably need is like textures if you want to make it look a bit more weathered or in use, or if you want to make it look like a showroom piece, then you could still possibly have a look at like roughness variation on the surface, or getting some specular maps or something like that. Just have a go at that. The wood material looks decent as well. Before use, put explosives in. That's pretty good. I don't know if that's a joke, but yeah, it's conjuring funny imagery. Right. Yeah, not much else to say about this. I think possibly light from behind if you want to get some more contours, because right now you've got a nice shadow on this side, but a focus light coming in here, but nothing from the back to show what the profile of this is, which sort of bleeds into the surface of it. Have a look at the Blender Guru lighting course, might help with a bit of that. But yeah, nice work. Bawdy Bronze. I shall move on. Right, we have one from... not gonna try with that one. People could see it if they make it extra clear. Zoom in. There you go. Cool. Right. Character model. Looks Eevee rendered. Ah, Katya. Well, thank you for being my translator. Right, so... I'll start with the hourglass. I like the sand has bunched up in an uneven form. That's good. I think people would have just gone with like flat sand most of the time, but having it bump up like that is quite nice. The surface is incredibly sharp. I think you've got a metal texture on here to try and make it look a bit more brushed, but there's no bevel at all, meaning we cannot see where the edges transition into each other. I think having it beveled would make it look a lot nicer in terms of being able to see what's happening with the shapes and not just blind shading madness on here. Yeah, I think that would just help this a lot. But in terms of the glass looks good, and you can see a bit of an HDRI in there, and the light, which looks pretty good. I think your lighting setup is really nice, with the blue from underneath and the rim from the side. I don't quite like how the shadow's being projected directly in front of them. I think that could be angled this way a bit, possibly. But yeah, let's go into the main character. So, the hands have some issues with posing, I think, because the thumb is tilted way too into the hand. You've got all the nails pointing in basically the same position, which is all directly up, which is incredibly painful if you try and do that. Oh yeah, if this glass may need some thickness added to it. Just throwing in a solidify modifier would help that a bit. But yeah, with hands, it's quite hard to get a good pose. There's a great talk on the hand of animation in the Blender conference this year. So I just have a look at the hand of animation, Blender conference 2019. Really solid video, really explanatory, and it's really good. But yeah, the pose is very flat. Your hand is almost always curved when doing something, especially on the knuckles, and it pushes into the palm. The palm almost always has this dip in it in the middle, and the thumb bulges out. The arm poses in general, I think, are anatomically correct, at least. I think this elbow is being bent by quite a lot, because I think you've put the pivot point around here for the bone, and what that's done is that's stretched this elbow really far around, but kept this corner really nice and clean, which I think you wanted to have that benefit where it would keep the, like, instead of having a big crease along here, it would keep this nice and sharp. But what that does is it makes the arm exponentially longer on the outside and can lead to some very bizarre proportioning issues where you seem to have a really long arm, where if this was to go around here to the palm, when you stand straight up, your arm will go to about your hip level or like pocket level, but this one seems to go down a lot longer if you were to stretch it out, that is. But I think that is just because the pivot point has moved to the centre of the arm. And if you want to rig or place bones in a creature or human or any model, the best way to place them would be to look at a anatomically correct skeleton and see where they are placed in the body. That is literally just place the bones where you think they are in the body, and that will almost always be correct results if you're going for at least a normal looking creature. Sometimes if you like I've seen in some Pokemon models, they'll have bones that extend outside the head just so they could get like there's a head here and the jawbone is here, just so they can like rotate the jaw about this point to make it look a bit nicer. But yeah, in any like human model, you just place the bone pivot point where the bones actually bend in real life. I think that also like extends here, because I can sort of see that there's no crease in the elbow, even though there is in real life. But yeah, materials, I think skin is incredibly shiny. You could probably have a look at putting some subsurface scouring on it and getting a look at skin texturing, because it's incredibly orange right now, and skin is incredibly variant in warmth and brightness, and it depends on light and such. And it's fine if you're doing like a game where you can't afford all that fanciness, but it's possibly worth it if you want to look into doing this character for an animation or a render. I like the tattoo. Tattoo looks pretty decent. I think you have textured some of this from the looks of the face, with like the freckles, but there's some areas that just makes it look a bit plain. Like the hands change colour enormously when it gets to the palm and the fingers, no matter what skin colour. But yeah, the thumb issue here as well is a bit similar to the one on top. Made the entire thing in Substance Painter. Did that, then that's even more impressive. The necklace is one solid hunk, which I think kind of matches a traditional Egyptian garment, but you do have some floating misconnections here. Okay, they're just the textures then. There's not a lot of outside the metal of the glass in this. I think the cloth could use a simulation on that, but I'm just going over. I'm gonna refine to going over things that are like next steps, as opposed to how you can fix this particular thing. But yeah, like looking into elbows, posing fingers, and face looks generally quite good, actually. The eyelashes tend to go into a soft corner, which I'm not entirely sure if that was intended. There seemed to be a lot of bumpiness and variation, because the eyelashes, at least, have been put stylistic choices like one solid hunk. I think it's possible you could try small clumps, or putting small like surface variations in this bit to make it look a bit more like an eyelash, because this looks a bit abnormal. I don't know if it's supposed to be an eyelash or a tattoo, but it's fairly stylistic choice anyway. I think the general surface modelling of everything looks good. That's really nice and round. I think there's the intention as well. This is incredibly reflective. I think you may want to put a bit of to show some reflections in it. Otherwise, it just sort of blends into the back of whatever's in it, whatever it's on, or some slight roughness on the material just to make it stand out a bit, because then it will sort of blend in. I think the main bulk of the work is good. I think the face is decent. Just have a look at the posing and the texturing of the skin. The eyes themselves are pretty good. I like the use of actually having a pupil as a bump, and this looks like it's underneath a reflective surface. That's generally pretty good because that's following actual eye anatomy. The ear looks nice. It's a good, decent ear. I do think it's very small though, in proportion to the head. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of really hard and minor things to like tackle with character modeling, and it's pretty tricky. This seems to be floating. I don't know if that's another stylistic choice, but it doesn't seem to fit in with me. But yeah, just small things can go a lot further. But yeah, have a look at the hand of animation. Have a look at bevel. Try and get some references for some hand positions and skin textures, and then probably just attach the things that are dangling. And I've missed a person. Let's go back to this. Right, this was made by Atlantic, in the Discord server at least. And this is what I think is just a render from the inside of a torus, which has just been twisted, but it does make an incredibly hypnotic effect. I think the speed and the thickness of the strips has been pretty well made. It's stuttering, but I think that's just me. Yeah, it's just me. Because it only happens when it gets to there. But, yeah. It's incredible. It reminds me a lot of the Jackbox intros, because I think there's one that's similar to this in Quiplash. But yeah. Very nice. No shading, no texturing whatsoever. I think this is just a small, just linear interpolation animation. Just taken the basics and done something really, well, clean, very clean. Just very little to say about it. Yeah, the stream is a little bit stuttery, sorry, because I think it's more to do with my internet, and that's just something I can't change right now. And I have no control over the tariff I'm on because of rent and flat issues, but yeah, it hopefully will get better with time or whatever, but yeah, I'm just... If you want to look at this, then you can see the link and have a look at it yourselves, but it's incredibly clean and very little to say about this. I don't know if I mean, anything I could say would just be wanting to change the original intent, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm not going to mention anything that like changes the intent of the artist involved, just because that's... If you just go around changing everyone's thing to be what you want, then you don't have the actual person's artwork, you just have your artwork. Right. Austin. Tell me I'm pretty. You are pretty. Good at modelling. Haha. There's quite a lot of these images. I think I've got the art station. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a backside as well, but I think I'll cover like the front render first to see what it's like. There's a lot of content to this one. All right. It's a good coverall angle. Right. Already got something in the barrel. I think that's the barrel. Yeah, it is. See there, this is using bevel effectively. There's almost every single surface has a bevel on, which, if you're going for these sort of hyper-realistic, incredibly minutely detailed guns, then you want to do that. Some tiny banding issues with the faces, which I think is just smoothing. There's some, I can see like edges here and here that are caused by the shading. I'm not sure if that's just because there's small surface defects in this, or if it's just because compression. Well, I don't know, it's an art station. It might just be shadows. I'm not sure. But if it is surface abnormalities, then you might want to smooth that out. You can have a look at just putting a surface underneath here, and then having it completely flat with none of these spikes in it at all, and then just shrink wrapping this to that. That might help. There's so much clean geometry here. Well, I don't have any wireframes, but in terms of like detailed separation, it's very good. So I can see primary shapes quite easily. It's very clearly got a direction from the barrel, so you know which way it's pointing. It seems incredibly angular for a grip, though. If you're going to hold this, then you're going to have to clutch a rather square object for a long amount of time. You can see there's like attention to detail and mechanics, because I think that'd be a either multi-shot or single-shot switch, I believe. Attention to detail on the thing you pull back. And I believe this seems to be the bullet container. Looks like safety. Does it have an image of it not being in the gun? Okay, so that is actually the magazine at the bottom, which is plopped into the gun, so that is detachable. Is it completely seamed all the way out? Okay, cool. So this does actually come out, and I imagine it's with that button. See, I can tell that was a button. Very well made. It's even got a bolt here just lying around. Even having attachable components to the top as well, if indeed you want to make this gun feel like it's used in an actual context, as well as like tiny little holes for if you want to strap in something. Yeah, there's like a strap here. I could see a lot of design intention from this, as well as like very like different surfaces are separated by creases to make it look like different materials, because this isn't material yet, but it shows that it could fairly easily have separation in all of these materials to make it look nice, or make it look like it's constructible. Even some sort of latch here that does something. Let's see if we can find a better angle of those bits. Yeah, you can see here we've got a like a foldable thing to make it look like the gun can be packed away. Yep, there's a little loophole there that you can clip something into. Very nice. Yeah, so this is from the back. I don't know what these two tube things are for. But that's an interesting design quirk. Yeah, there's even more like grips and clips. I like the trigger. I even like how this is all tilted up slightly, just to make it more comfortable to, say, anyone holding or using the gun. Very, very well made. incredibly well thought out as well. Even the inside of this makes it look like it could clip into something. Oh, is that the bullet? This pellet here. Oh, and it comes out of these, possibly? I'm not sure. It might be some sort of sci-fi gun of some kind. Yeah, I've not got a lot of suggestions or points of focus. It's mostly just noticing what you've done. I don't know what you would do differently or change about it. Apart from that, like, tiny shading issue here, but I don't know if that's an entirely shading issue problem. But yeah, really good job. I think we've had like a couple of amazingly good gun renders in here and in my last stream. But yeah, not much else to say. I will go on to Lirum. Lirum and his big club. A very low poly club. A very game-acity club. Which does not seem to lose a lot of detail once you actually zoom out on it. I do like a good topology render. Yeah, there's some triangles, but it's fine on a hard surface. Even sparing polygons to make bolts and nuts and bolts stick out. Yeah. 3,300 vertices. Pretty good. I like the design. I really like that this looks like the bottom half of a jaw of a big monster. So head being up here and then the jaw coming down and up. And it actually has like the teeth and grime like inset into it. I think there's a few weird like normal map issues and texture issues. Like there's some creases there. There's a bizarre cut here. Not sure about those, but overall the colours and the materials are separated quite nicely. I like the use of just random knives on the bottom to make it look like a multi-purpose tool. Multi-purpose tool for murder. So yeah, all of these like fine details are bump mapped. Very good. Fairly clean bump maps from most of the work, because this creases very nicely. Looks like the creature had like an injury in its life. I like this brown patch because it makes it look like you can hold this with one hand and then hold this in the other one. So, like that, and then arm go up, arm go up. Very cool. And then like a section here for one-handing and two-handing. So it's very strong designs for these weapons. Because all of the thought and attention pays off when someone like me tries to look at them. Like a perfectly circular chunk out of that. Is that completely circular? Kind of. I do really like the materials on this. The lighting is pretty decent. I can see some light coming from this side. If I would feel like there should be some light coming from here to backlight it a little bit. World of Warcraft weapon. Or concept art. I mean, that's fine. Like, it's still incredibly well made. Yeah, there's just a few normal map and material issues that I think could possibly use some looking at. I think there's AO baked, but I can't really tell. There seems to not be a lot here or here, which you possibly want to look into if you wanted to have this into a full game, because it seems to get lighter in the creases here and here. Yeah, that one's quite stretched. I do agree with you. I don't know what this is. I think it looks some sort of glue or connecting material. Not sure. But yeah, I really like the rustic look of the metal. That looks nice. I guess it should probably reflect the blades as well. But actually, no, they're quite dented, and you probably keep them clean as well. But no, it's really good detail separation, really good work in general. Nice work. Nice work, Lirum. No, I'm not got much else to say about this. Teeth look good. Blades look good. Textures are great. I like the variation in the material here. Is that sort of bleeding into that one? I don't know if that's a clipping issue or if that's just a material issue. Yeah. But yeah, only very minor stuff with this one, and I'll move on. Very well done. Right. Drachen Steel, which I believe is, whatever. Huh. Oh yeah, this is another ArtStation one as well, but it's going to be hard to fault much of this. The perspective is really well done. Having this in complete focus and the floor, it's really well made. I would say that I think the incredibly forced depth of field sort of makes it seem a lot smaller than it is. Like there's some sort of mini set. Yeah, I think it's just the tiny. It's because if you have a very small, like if you're filming something very small, then it's going to have incredibly small depth of field and have to blur a lot of stuff before it. Whereas stuff like this, you have the background, which I think in the ArtStation posts is, yeah, it's fairly close to the portal itself, which sort of makes the portal. Actually, I don't know how far it is. Yeah, that's a good design decision. Is there anything? I think it's just the blurring on the floor. I think you could. I'm trying to see if I can explain why my brain immediately thinks that. I think it's also the placement of the camera. If you're viewing this as a human, then the floor leading up to you and the portal at the end of a hallway sort of makes you feel like you're there. But having the camera situated here feels like the center is here, so the camera is coming out of either someone whose head reaches here, and feet touch the ground like here, or it means that you're a very small person, or if it's a very hard to reach camera shot, then it looks like it's possibly a miniature. But yeah, that's possibly the only issue that deviates from the original intent. But yeah, uh, other than that, mesh and materials, very good substance use. I didn't know you like textured the portal with the substance painter. That's probably why it looks so nice. Actually, no, I saw a tutorial about this because you made a tutorial for this exact render. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're from the Blue Blender Discord. Nice. Cool. I really liked your stuff. But yeah, I'll continue. I think the seam here doesn't seem. Seam. Yeah, you've moved around some assets. Yeah, no, you're well. I've at least paid attention because you're always like helping everyone out, which is very nice. Yeah, I can sort of see like went went back on the details sort of a little bit, but no, the bricks on the floor look amazing. The seam going into this bit sort of seems like it's a completely flat-sided rock that's just slapped on the floor. But yeah, I think that's possibly one of the keys that makes it look a little bit less realistic. The specular on here and the roughness sort of make this wall look incredibly wet. Even the background of it. I don't know if that's on the pre-comp. Yes, it is somewhat. Yeah, so you've tried to darken it up a little bit. And then lighten up the middle. I think the lighting works pretty well. This is trying to be lit only purely by the effects of the portal, which comes across fairly well. You sort of you sort of get to this point and you think, oh, there must be some more light coming from behind. But yeah, it's the micro displacement, like you said, and the rocks makes this like impossible stone object look very possible. And so does the stairs being kind of woody. Were they? Yes. These blockouts are very good. Can sort of very easily tell your thought process of making this. Yeah, that rock is completely separate. Yeah, it was all right here where it lumped over, but I think you moved it back a bit just to make the path look better, which I'm all for because the path looks amazing. Yeah, if you want to prove that you made this sort of thing, then yeah. Fire looks brilliant. Bowls look brilliant. Even the tiny like chains or ropes on here look brilliant. Is there a pool under here? Imagine so. Yeah, nice. There's a lot going on. It's very cool. I like the just black nothingness that's in the portal. It sort of provides a nice focus point and draws your eye in. The moss on the chains look great. The moss and everything looks great. foliage in general looks amazing. Not a lot to mention. I think this all looks fairly accurate in universe. I don't think I'd change anything. Just have a look at if you want this wall to be that wet. 400 million particles. Alright then. Yeah, I need to watch that tutorial you posted. It seems very high quality. Is this connected? I think so. It's hard to tell. Yeah, it's sort of covered up by the moss. No, it sort of is there. Like, stuck in the rock. Don't see any, pins or rivets holding it in there. But I mean, that's not a huge problem. Extremely good use of everything, really. Particles, foliage, growth, the vines, the ivies, grass usage, having it all pool around the water as well, and the cracks, like leaves. I don't know where they come from, but there's well, there's some leaves here. I don't know where these would come from inside a cave, unless they're dragged in from the outside, or if they'll come through the portal. It's another possibility. But yeah, really good. I'm gonna move on because that's. Oh, you've got two more. All right, let's move on then. Very good work. Yes, Dragon Soul, as you translated in chat. Oh, you're gonna put a forest behind the portal? Okay. Yeah, that was gonna explode your computer. Well, you could. Well, you said you used Photoshop in the end, so you might be able to just like put a image in black, or render out a cryptomat and then use that in the comp stages to just green screen just a random image or another image onto the background, and that's entirely possible. But yeah, it doesn't have to. You don't have to render it as well. But I'm sure you already knew that. Right. Wine glasses and tables. Immediately, this seems a bit iffy. I don't know about the wood on the table, which is filled in. I don't know if this is a floor or. Hello, Austin. Well, it looks like a table. It seems to be at table height. Very nice label. Very clean label. Almost like this is a advertisement for the wine that it's the company that's made it. And they're just gone straight out to the back door. That's a good lip. There's a really, really good talk on glass from the Blender conference as well, which I would highly recommend you have a look at as well, because it can sort of help with the black spots you get. So like this area here, where it's got some completely black on the inside, it will help you figure out why that happens and how to get rid of it. Okay, so yeah, then you'll probably be able to use the knowledge much later. But yeah, you can. Yeah. There's already way ahead of me. Already knew this. It's a very greenish-looking cork on the inside. I do like the attention to detail on the bubbles. Kind of implies that this was already opened, but it seems to be full. But the cork seems to be completely in. Yeah, I can just barely see the bubbles in this one. I think the surface tension is good. Oh yeah, the brightness is quite a lot for a white wine. I could see why you're worried about it, because you end up losing a lot of what is in the glass at the top. I think it's possible you could have, in compositing stage, brought this, made this bit darker, but still keep its lightness. Or no, make the contrast higher between the foreground and the background elements. And yeah, the wood looks great. The glass material looks pretty decent. I would say that you are playing with fire a bit with the brightness. It is quite bright, but you also do lose this bit. So you can do stuff like artificially bring down the brightness of the background by having it only emit light and then putting in the background image afterwards, or the HDRI if you want. And you can render it in two stages, have the foreground be lit differently to the background, and then have these added on later. Yeah, I mean, you won't lose the reflections because you can put those into the HDRI, but just not have the background brightness affect that. But yeah, not much else to say. I think this might. Well, there's so many different kinds of bottle that it's hard to say which shape it should have. But yeah, really good stuff. And I'll move on. It's an incredibly interesting knife. I don't know what these segments are for, but it looks very interesting. And got the case next to it. They even went through the trouble of rendering the entire floor. Oh, I forgot this has an art station for it. Ah, the block out. Ah, yeah. Eevee rendering. Yeah, not much more to add from this. But, yes, from this. Oh, okay. Designed to break swords. These individual parts. Okay. Oh, and I see the hole as well to try and. Yeah, okay. Like, attack a person with a sword and then break out of their hand. Yeah, I would have suspicions about these just being snapped off as well, because they seem very, very thin. Yeah, metal is really hard. I think you did a good job with the blade in this one. The divot's quite nice. Yeah, I suffered from a bit of noise here. think there's a bit of grass overlapping that. Yeah, I think so. I really like the case. I think the case is just using the Veroni texture. I like the attention to detail on the small metal fillets on the inside, and the overhang and the clamp on this metal to make it look like it was attached to the case. Grass looks good, bark looks good. Got a really nice collection of textures on this. Moss looks good. Foliage in general from you is pretty great. Procedural everything, that's really good. Yeah, then I can, I think the metal looks fine. I think the blade is possibly, yeah, it's incredibly sharp. So I think it's fine to keep the sharpness instead of having a bevel on it. But it goes a little bit into the uncanny, but from being so sharp. When the rest is quite, like this bit upwards is very, very realistic and accurate, or feels accurate. And I appreciate the touch of detail to do the sheath as well as the blade. Very cool design as well. Very interesting. I think it's presented really well. I like the lighting. It looks like someone did just come into a forest and lay this down, and it just so happens to be lit from above. Hence the shadows from here. Not much I would change about this. I would say as a presentation render it looks good. Well, yeah, I won't argue about the design of the blade, but its intention is clear that it wants to be a foreboding oh, make an HDRIs. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's possible you could have a go at going onto HDRI Haven and then grabbing a few there and then seeing what these look like in those sort of different situations, because that might be a way to see some imperfections and surface details. Because I know that traditional 2D artists will flip an image left to right if they want to try and spot some errors or issues. I don't know if that piece of bark is clipping through itself, because it seems to have the underside on top of the overside, which seems to be clipping. But yeah, no, you can iterate as quickly as you want with HDRIs. Yeah, I mean, incredibly professional looking renders. I have not got much to say about most of them. I think you did a really good job. Oh, it's a leaf. Okay. I think it's just a bit confusing, this thing in general, because I think it's just too close to the knife. I think you just get rid of it and probably make it a little bit more easy to see. But yeah, I mean, it's all just tiny, tiny things that just might even come down to preference. Composition is good. The knife draws the attention very clearly, and it goes from bottom to top. these leaves look all separate. It's very nice. These leaves aren't clipping into each other at all. But yeah. Yep, sing your praises, but we'll have to move on. Right. Okay. So, V-Ray rendering. Now, I do not know anything about that, but can go over some topology. I mean, I will try to review and critique stuff as much as possible, but I mean, you probably know more than I do at this point. But as long as I can provide a sort of second perspective, then I will attempt to do so. But yeah, thank you very much for your renders, and I wish you the best of luck. Now, topology. Yeah, Austin, you did miss yours, but the video will be available afterwards, so it's alright. Yeah, and yeah, cool. And yeah, I'll just continue. Yep, I can see a fair few triangles. It's not too big of an issue if it's just on the flat surfaces, and if this is viewed from the side, there's not a lot of detail from the front to be worried about. Let's see if I can see any surface imperfections about where the triangles were. I mean, not really. It's very good. There's a tiny bit there. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. You've got two triangles connected to one point here. Let's copy that image. Yeah, I could see you're trying to do a shrink wrap onto some stuff, but this topology will not help, because I can see you're trying to go down here as well as go along here at the same time, but I think you just have to go down there and possibly bring this. So that one's going across there, and this one can go down here. This one can go across there. Connect this one to this. Connect this down to here. And then have this one go up here. And then you'll be stuck with quads only. It depends. You want to avoid triangles as much as possible, but in instances like this where you need to connect, say, multiple things going down to one point, then that's basically fine. But when you have intersecting massive loops going down here, and they all have to be connected to like one point which has 1, 2, 3 quads and 2 triangles on either end. Actually, if this is a quad, then this might be 2 verts. Then you could slide this one down a bit and have this one move down as well, and then you'd probably get rid of this entirely and just have connected loops up here. I think so, but that should, in theory, help with this issue, where it's sort of smearing slightly. But other than that, it looks pretty clean. The handle looks really good. Incredibly dense, which is fair enough for a very small object at a very large flat surface. I like what you did here, separating the strips and bunching up together. That's usually indicative of hard surface modelling. You can do that and get away with it, and it's fine. Just be aware that when you're texturing you will have to be careful of the textile density. Now that's looking odd. Oh no, it's a gap. Cool, that's fine. It's a very clean car render. I would say the wheels look incredible. The lighting and the texturing on tires. I do know that that was not made, but still, it makes the rest of the car look great. The stripes of the light on it all, very good showroom render. A lot of basically every single car advert is pre-rendered, and they don't have any cars. They just use the model, and it looks great. But yeah, apart from some fairly minor topology issues, you've got most of this nailed. Don't think I can see anything inside of the car, which is probably fair because why would you want to make the entire inside of a car just for the showroom render? Those lights look incredible. On the front, those windscreens, the wing mirrors are great. There's loads of tiny details on the back and the sides you don't get to see from this angle. So it'd be nice to see you render these in different situations. But yeah, you don't have the wall in the background. But yeah, very, very good showroom render. Right, incredibly good job, Saber. I did not say a name beginning, sorry. Right, continue. Wisdom. 500 triangles. Is that back and front? Because that's very impressive if it's back and front. Alright, let's go in. I'm just checking the Discord. I see people have added some more. I'm not able to do those tonight. I will leave those for whoever's roasting next. But I will finish the ones up to JC. But thank you everyone for your renders. They are much appreciated, and apologies for my horrible life commitments. But yes, let's go with this. Looks hand textured, or hand painted. Very, very nice wood engraving. I would say it looks very blurry at the top, but I think that's just the render. The texture looks like it's fine. It's incredibly worn and shaped and rounded wood. It's a very good tree stump. I really like this texturing and mapping on the side. The and I don't know. Unless Kevin, you want to tackle this one as well. But yeah, the whole thing looks great. I can't really see where polygons are placed apart from at the contours and at the side. Very impressive stuff. The wood itself looks like it's scaled somewhat. It's a rather interesting style of wood texturing, because it's sort of chunked on as opposed to flaky bark. I don't know if this is from a specific style of tree or a particular stump in reference, but you also have branches that seem to have been cut from here, which I don't know if they would be typically that low on a tree stump. But other than that, the work is pretty great in general. Nice variation in the corners. I can see a bump to try and separate the clearly worn down and sanded wood from the natural looking and pseudo random outsides. yeah, very nice. Stuff like this swelling into itself, really good. Just keep it up and have a look at other references and other wood and see what happens. I think it'll go really well. Very nice. Yeah. Right, I will continue. There's not much else to say. I think it's a very interesting story that this text is. It's a mystery to me. Is at least like some sort of small little like secret or mystery to this piece. It's very nice. Very nicely lit, but just a bit blurry and weirdly presented, I think. But yeah, good job. And then finally, JC with a really good planetary render. I would say this lens flare is quite ridiculous. It sort of hides all of the details. It's some bizarre shapes that it's producing, which may be the intent. I don't know if this is just to like be absurdly bright and overwhelming, but it sort of hides all of the smaller details that you want to try and see on the planet's surface. Because right now it looks very much like this is just a moderately sized lake, and it sort of doesn't have all of the tiny details that you'd want if you're looking at this from like an astronomical point of view. It almost looks like it's a floor from here. Ghost compositing node. Ah, right. Yeah, I mean, you might want to tone it down a bit. I would say the stars are very, very dim. I mean, it may still be in the atmosphere at this point, but makes sense. It's a good sun. I think it's very, very pure white. Okay, if yeah, denoising would probably kill all of those tiny, tiny details that. Yeah, I can see a bit of it now that there's like area of high detail and area of just blurry area here. Yeah, I think this is just really decent model and effects and space knowledge. Just sort of it's just been unfortunately sort of killed in the rendering process. Like the clouds don't look like they're hugely off the ground either. They just sort of look like they're misting up a floor, which might not be the case when doing this, like viewing this in viewport. And being completely procedural, A star, brilliant. If I've seen like some stuff with like November, and people have done some incredibly really amazing procedural stuff in Blender, and that's always incredible. And every time I see something like this, I'm like, I mean, it could be procedural. I don't know. At this point, they might just be made on purpose. But yeah, I think the reflection in the water as well. Or who knows, could be mercury or aluminium, lakes of aluminium. I mean, if it is supposed to be Earth, it doesn't look like it to me. And it might just be that blue ground, sort of confusing. But if it's an alien planet, then it looks fine. I think that's a good job. Variation in stars is something I don't see a lot of in space renders, which might help with the, oh, there's a lot of like round dots here that are just muddying up the blackness, or possibly blurring like a nebula or something. But yeah, I think yeah, it was just a bit unfortunate how this came out in rendering, but the procedural work and the effects work is good. Yeah, the atmosphere might need thinning a bit, but having a look at this compared to like other Earth seems fairly good. But yeah, I greatly appreciate the effort to make a procedural, and seeing other stuff you've done, I no doubt that you are knowing what you're doing. But yeah, I will leave it there. Very good job. And with that, I want to say thank you to everyone who's sent in a render, and good luck to everyone with anything I said that hopefully would have been some sort of help. And it's just getting to the point where I'm like, no idea what to say to these people. They're just way ahead of me, and all I could do is offer my initial reaction or some tiny nugget of help that might work out. But yeah, thank you everyone, and good night, and keep blendering.